October 13th, 2025 Eugene City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access this meeting remotely can do so by watching the live stream on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed on the city's public webcasts and meetings materials webpage. Tonight's meeting will also include a public comment period, and if you wish to speak and have not already done so, please fill out a request to speak form on our public webcasts and meetings materials webpage or at the entrance to this room, and we'll accept request to speak forms until 7:35 p.m. These forms will be used to generate the random order of speakers and correctly enter the speakers' names into the public record. The public comment period will be limited to 90 minutes or conclude by 10 p.m., whichever occurs first. If the number of speakers exceeds the time we have allotted, we encourage speakers to consider abbreviating their remarks so that the maximum number of speakers can be heard. For those joining the meeting remotely for the public comment period, you are also welcome to email your comments to City Council, and that is true of anyone making public comment to City Council. As a reminder, Council's meeting rules of conduct apply to all attendees, both in the chamber and in the lobby, and include no flags, signs, loud or disruptive language, noise or conduct that obstructs the business of the council. Please keep the room quiet and respectful for all speakers, and you are welcome to wave your hands in silent support. Additionally, we encourage all those that are ill or who have had close contact with others who are ill to join our meeting remotely rather than in person. We also have masks available for use in the lobby if you need one. In the case of a medical emergency, an automated external defibrillator, an AED, is located on the counter behind staff at the west side of the room, and emergency exits are through the double doors located at the back of the room and the double doors near the front of the room. The doors to the patio can also be used as needed. And with that, I call the October 13th, 2025 meeting of the Eugene City Council to order. We begin with a land acknowledgement. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. This land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and to honor Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Alihi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. And we express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. Our first item on tonight's agenda is ceremonial matters and proclamations that I have asked to be prepared for the month of October. For the month of October, I've asked the City of Eugene to prepare 5 proclamations, and I'd like to share a few important words about each and also appreciate the time to share some things with you this evening that maybe are a little bit unusual. Proclamations are ceremonial documents signed by the mayor and issued to organizations, businesses, and the community of Eugene to bring attention to public awareness campaigns, charitable campaigns, arts and culture celebrations, and special honors on the recommendation of the mayor. Last Friday, we recognized World Mental Health Day on October 10th, joining a global observation of mental health issues and mobilizing efforts to support mental wellness worldwide and within our own community. This remains incredibly important work every day within the city of Eugene and Lane County. Today, on the second Monday of October, we recognize Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Eugene and across the state of Oregon. Oregon is one of more than a dozen states that choose to focus our collective attention on the recognition of Indigenous resilience rather than colonial conquest. And this council adopted a resolution with the same objective in 2016. Earlier this afternoon, I had the privilege of joining tribal and community leaders for the Indigenous Peoples Day event hosted by the Native American Student Union at the University of Oregon and sharing this year's proclamation. I'm grateful to our community, to our tribal partners, our educators, and our young collegiate leaders for the invitation to join that event and be a part of that moment. For the entirety of the month of October, the City of Eugene also recognizes Filipino American History Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I want to thank our Filipino American community leaders for their outreach and education. This year, we commemorate the 438th anniversary of the earliest documented presence of Filipinos on the west coast of the United States, and we celebrate the heritage, contributions, and teaching of our Filipino American community and celebrate the more than 50,000 Filipino Americans who call Oregon home. As we acknowledge Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I especially want to thank our local nonprofit leaders who are working to meet the crisis of domestic violence and support survivors. It's a crime that violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security, and humanity. And we support all those who are affected, victims, children, family, friends, coworkers, and community. Locally, the Hope and Safety Alliance has organized events all this month, and I encourage Eugenians to look for opportunities to support efforts to empower domestic violence survivors, as well as our nonprofit safety net that seek to support them every day. Finally, this month, we recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as breast cancer remains one of the leading causes of cancer-related death among women in the United States. In the Pacific Northwest, 1 in 7 women are affected by breast cancer, while the national average is 1 in 8 women. And on average, every 2 minutes, a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States. Today, there are more than 4 million breast cancer survivors in the United States, thousands of whom live within our community. As your mayor, I'm proud to be one of them. A 2-time survivor of triple-negative breast cancer, once in my early 30s, and once just this year as an unexpected companion to my first 9 months serving as your mayor. So many people in our community are affected by cancer, and so many people's loved ones and families face what can be an incredibly scary diagnosis. As people, we all continually navigate unknowns and incredibly challenging circumstances in our own lives, and we get to decide to meet those circumstances with courage and integrity. If we are lucky, incredibly lucky, we also meet those circumstances with loved ones and strong bonds within community to support us. So in taking this moment to recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I just want to celebrate all of the people, the friends, the family members, the community members, the medical care providers, and the researchers in this community who lift up everyone who is facing a diagnosis and who's working towards a future in which everyone in our community has greater access to health and full health. No 2 experiences are the same, but the importance of access to great care and to consistent support are things that we wish for everyone in our community. And so I just want to take a moment to say, for all of the community members and organizations who I met with on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday during these first 9 months of service as your mayor, in almost every case, I was navigating an incredibly difficult experience internally, grateful for the opportunity to meet that privately with my family and my loved ones, but also grateful to our community for being so full of hope, so full of energy, so full of concern about the future. And that always, for me, is a North Star. And I know as a community, as individuals, we can meet any challenge we face. As a community, we can meet any challenge we face. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to share that experience with you all this evening. With that concludes our... Thank you for adhering to our council agreements, council and room, hands in silent support. Thank you. That concludes our first agenda item. Our second agenda item, tonight's agenda, are committee reports and items of interest. And I now open the floor for reports and items of interest from council. And Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for sharing and the power that you, I think, brought to the issue for everybody here. I am speaking on behalf of our IGR committee, of which I'm chair. I have a report monthly update. The 2025 Oregon Legislature's first special session closed on Monday, September 29th, with the Senate passage of HB 3991, Governor Kotek's transportation bill. During the Oregon Legislature's organizational legislative days from September 29 to October 1st, the city's IGR manager engaged with local legislators in advancing SB 473 from 2025, the city's bill that would increase penalties for people convicted of threatening a public official. This concept is currently a City of Eugene priority approved by City Council prior to the 2025 legislature session. Next item is the IGR committee met on Wednesday, October 1st to review draft priorities document, also discussed revisions to the existing state and federal policy document, and lastly, to discuss updating IGR administrative processes. This fall and early winter, the IGR committee will be discussing and providing input on all of these items with regular updates to the City Council via these committee reports. Currently, mid-January is when the priority and policy documents are scheduled for City Council deliberations and actions. Next item. The IGR committee also approved a letter of support for Whitebird's clinic application for federal funds to support their unhoused outreach and healthcare services network. Next item, last item. Please let your IGR committee members, myself, Councilors Evans and Ye, or Mayor Knutson, the city manager, or the IGR manager know if you have any input or questions to follow up on. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to reiterate my deep appreciation for sharing your story with the community and just simply say thank you. And we're with you, and we have your back, and keep fighting. Mayor, my comments tonight are more forward-looking than they are a report on activity that I've been involved in or my liaison work. But there are two events on Saturday that I want to draw attention to and gratitude that I want to express to the organizers of said events. Councilor Ye and I were fortunate enough to attend the first of these events back in April, the Hands Off protest, and most recently the No Kings rally in June. And a great many community members who are here tonight were in attendance in an effort to resist fascism and authoritarianism, and advocate for a better future, to advocate for a more perfect union, to advocate for preserving and protecting our democracy as we know it. So this Saturday at 10 o'clock at the federal courthouse begins a march and a rally that I hope will be peaceful and well attended. And I'm reading from the invitation on social media, and this is where my kudos and appreciation come from. Quote, a core principle behind all No Kings events is a commitment to nonviolent action. We expect all participants to seek to de-escalate any potential confrontation with those who disagree with our values and to act lawfully at these events. Weapons of any kind, including those legally permitted, should not be brought to these events. Demonstrate loudly and proudly, and thank you in advance to all who plan to attend this Saturday. Another event on Saturday, it's sold out, of course. If you're interested in attending, apparently there's a phone number you can call to be added to the cancellation list. It's an evening for the animals, the annual gala supporting Green Hill Humane Society. And just yesterday, I look at my watch because my dates are on my watch. Just yesterday, our little buddy, Vince from Green Hill, celebrated his 2 months in his new forever home. We couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you to the volunteers and staff at Green Hill. And if you have the opportunity to attend the annual gala, dinner, and auction, or just simply chip in, visit green-hill.org. Thank you.
Councilor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to bring to everyone's attention the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission. So we recently received another award. I know I'm always telling you about all the amazing awards. It's one of my favorite groups. So they received the Utility of the Future Today Award from the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, which recognizes MWMC as a leading utility in the areas of research and energy efficiency, watershed stewardship, and community engagement. And this is an award that lasts for several years, for 3 years, and then you have to reapply. And we did get it back in 2022 as well. So we're pretty excited about that. They just finished up their Clean Water University. If you haven't heard of this, this is when fifth graders go to MWMC and learn all about wastewater, how it works, careers in the industry. It's a great time. It's actually pretty competitive. We're hoping to expand the program as funds allow, because there's often more classes that want to do it than we have space for. But it's a good time if you ever have the chance to check it out. Thanks.
And I have 2 items, but City Clerk, I'm not sure.
I just wanted you to see that Madary was in the queue.
Thank you so much. City Manager Madary, zooming in.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm one of the participants that you encouraged to stay home if we're sick. So had a couple of things I wanted to share though, and felt like it was important to be here. So even though I'm not in the room, I just want you to know I'm going to offer some comments, and then I will listen to all of the public forum. I think it's really important. I want to start first though, Mayor, by just saying how inspiring I find you to be. And I just appreciate your personal sharing and your story. It's very moving, and so thank you for that. And I'm sure that was very challenging to share. The 2 things that I wanted to talk about today sort of pale in comparison, but the first one is I know there's a lot of folks there in person and also online that have been weighing in on the automatic license plate reader system and council's unanimous vote to recommend I consider pausing until we've had a further conversation on that. I'm not going to go deep into this today. We're looking for a time we can have a work session as soon as possible, maybe in early November. But until that time, I have worked with Chris Skinner, our chief, on pausing the license plate readers until we can at least finalize contract language changes and have that work session with you. So I would expect in the next 24 hours that those cameras have been disabled. I know that'll be too much for some and too little for many, and I look forward to just hearing people's comments on that. I am listening to you. Also, I just wanted to do a quick reminder that I convened a group of technical advisors to help us understand how we can be more fiscally stable and to help advise me on that. I committed that I would come here and share every Monday night kind of what that work group is doing. And my hope continues to be that they'll have at least a draft set of recommendations by early December so I can share those with you. So far, the group has met 3 times for an hour and a half at a time, and we've given them a ton of homework, a lot of things to read, and they've been mostly catching up on how the city budgets, public budgeting, all of our processes, and ways in which we have made cuts and adjustments over the last however many years to meet the challenge. So they've been learning a lot. This week, they're going to start diving into some of the benchmarks, looking at communities about our size around the Northwest, and then some like in the Colorado area, but cities similar to Eugene, to understand how we might match up. As a reminder, they're all technical experts in the areas that I'm asking them to look at, which is operations, efficiencies, revenues, and economic development. They're asking a lot of questions still, and I think as we sort of finish the work this week, they're going to starting to turn those questions into potential recommendations and run those through a criteria matrix. Anyway, the group is doing incredible work. I'm so grateful. It's inspiring to have people willing and wanting to volunteer their time to make us a better city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. Hope you are feeling better 100% soon. Thank you for joining us, though, for those 2 important updates. I just have 2 quick items to share, and they are good news to share. Seasonal news to share from a couple of our higher education partners within the City of Eugene. The first is an incredible accolade, which is that on September 16th, Bushnell University was awarded the National School of Character by the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, the NAIA, as the second ever recipient of this award, which celebrates 5 pillars of the student athlete: respect, responsibility, integrity, servant leadership, and sportsmanship. This is an incredible, significant honor for Bushnell, and was announced recently by the NAIA at an event at the Bushnell campus near downtown Eugene. We are so proud of this part of our community, and I would just like to highlight that in 2024-25, that academic year, Bushnell student athletes contributed more than 6,600 hours of community service, and all 16 NAIA programs earned Scholar Team honors, with more than 60% of athletes having GPAs of 3.2 or higher, which is a long way of saying folks are very busy, but working very hard to support our community. So congratulations to our partners at Bushnell. Also, as many of you certainly noticed, about 2 weeks ago, we welcomed back the Ducks for the fall term in Eugene, and the class of 2029 has now joined the U of O campus. This class joins a student body of more than 24,000 students from every county in Oregon, every state in the United States, and more than 90 countries. And it is my pleasure to welcome back all U of O students, both new and returning, to your home in Eugene. We hope to always be a special place, have a special place in your heart. And lastly, for those keeping track of construction projects, of note is the recent completion of the Villard and University Hall's restoration projects on campus, and the second Knight campus building is nearly complete. That is at Agate and Franklin, for people who've been looking at that building under construction for a while. The Knight campus is the home to the university's new bioengineering degree in just these last couple of years, but also translational sciences and more than 30 teams of scientists and researchers and 550 students engaged with research collaboration in the cycle of scientific innovation. So welcome back, Ducks. And here we are in the midst of fall in Eugene. With that, that concludes our second agenda item. And our third item on tonight's agenda is a priority goal action, the adoption of a resolution approving a low-income rental housing property tax exemption for the Park Run apartments.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council is asked to adopt a resolution approving a 20-year low-income rental housing property tax exemption, also known as a LRPD, for Park Run Apartments. Park Run Apartments will be a 4-story newly constructed building located at 170 South Garden Way. The development will include 158 income-restricted units serving households earning at or below 30% and 60% of the area median income. The project meets the required LRPD eligibility criteria, and staff are available for questions or to provide additional information.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. If there are no questions from council, seeing none, I'll turn to the council president to put a motion forward.
I move to adopt the resolution attached as Attachment B to this AIS, approving a low-income rental housing property tax exemption for property located on South Garden Way.
Second.
Any additional discussion from council? Seeing none, councilors, please lock in your votes on the tablets in front of you. And that vote passes by a vote of 7-0 with Councilor Leach absent. Thank you. That concludes our third agenda item. Moving on to our next agenda item, we have consent calendar 1, the approval of City Council minutes, the approval of City Council tentative agenda, approval of interim civilian review board appointees, and approval of a UO land agreement of community benefit project. If there are no questions from council, I'll turn to the council president to put a motion forward.
I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
Any discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll take a vote for this motion. Councilors, please lock in your votes. And the motion passes with a vote of 7-0. Thank you. That concludes our fourth agenda item.
Mayor, just for the record, the public benefit project that the U of O is around the whole, the Cuthbert Center, and putting ADA parking and concrete pads for ADA people, moving the the box office to the south and making it and moving out the fence so we have more space within Cuthbert, which would be awesome. So all of that was more than we had planned on. So this helps accomplish all of that, which will be a great addition.
Thank you for that summary. The last item on tonight's agenda is our public comment period. Public comment period is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. Staff, can you please share a list and the number of speakers who've signed up by 7:35 and announce the first speakers this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 34 speakers signed up for this evening. Great. I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood if known before beginning your comments. If you are announced as the next speaker, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. Your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Our first speakers this evening are Lynn Woodrich, followed by Amy Code.
My name's Lynn Woodrich. I'm the Active Bethel Community Co-Chair. I've lived in the Bethel area over 30 years. I live in Ward 8. I'm speaking for the Active Bethel Community Board. I must repeat this public comment as it is of utmost importance. I sent you the link on September 8th to a horrifying story about Stella Jones purchasing the Superfund site in Sheridan, Oregon, and starting up the same polluting business. I hope you've read it because you as our elected officials should help us avoid a similar fate in Eugene. EPA allowed the new buyer to use the same toxic chemicals as Stella Jones had used, including pentachlorophenol, which resulted in renewed poisonous emissions into the surrounding neighborhoods. We should ensure we prevent any such calamity in Eugene. There's a public hearing tomorrow for the Public Health Standards Land Use Code amendments. Based on City Council direction, the proposed code amendment will require that prior to the issuance of city development permits, an applicant must demonstrate that either, 1, the applicant has been issued all necessary licenses and permits from pollution control agencies like the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency, LRAPA, and Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, or the applicant has applied for the necessary licenses and permits, and the licenses and permits are likely to be issued. Who decides if it's likely? How's this going to prevent businesses like the biofuels transfer station and the fuel tank farm from locating in a residential area? It's critical that the public health standards with teeth be finalized soon so that the community is able to benefit and public health will not be harmed prior to Georgia Baxter selling the J.H. Baxter site to another polluting business. EPA says even city zoning laws make a big difference in what is allowed in reuse. The City Council could accomplish the suggestion that Councilor Leach made of narrowing the descriptions of the zone designations right away. The narrower zone verification request would give the planners a way to deny the most hazardous businesses. Then maybe we could have had the legal basis to deny the fuel tank farm in the Train Song neighborhood. Putting protective zoning in place would have helped strengthen the city's position regarding the biofuels train to truck distribution center before the company took the city to the Land Use Board of Appeals. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Our next speakers are Amy Code, followed by Wayne Martin.
So my name is May Code, Ward 2. Mayor, councilors, thank you so much for being here and listening to us. Very quickly, first I want to thank the last speaker. My training is in public health, and I hope you take everything very seriously that she just said. I am here just to very briefly state that I continue to support the suspension, the end of the contract with the flock safety surveillance. I have been reading the news, I've been following these things, and I just want to remind you, there are people who know more than me, but The end does not justify the means. The latest news that, yes, it can be effective does not mean that it is the appropriate surveillance for our city. I thank the manager for the likelihood of a pause. I suggest that we just cancel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ame. Our next speakers are Wayne Martin, followed by Jensina Hawkins.
Madam Mayor, City Council, Madam City Manager, I'm here to represent the 5,000 people who are homeless in Lane County and to speak on their behalf. First of all, to give thanks to the city for allowing us, as neighbors feeding neighbors, to feed breakfast and lunch to our guests in the park, between 80 or so on Wednesdays and 160 or so on Saturdays. There's a real sense of gratitude and appreciation on their part. Thank you. I also want to mention that I do hear from folks that I interact with that at times the Eugene Police Department people are giving them sometimes less than 10 minutes to abandon the area where they're being in. And I'm wondering if I could speak so that I would be heard by the city police department and its Chief Skinner to make sure that officers are trained to give them longer than just 10 minutes and that they should have ample time to gather all their belongings and move them responsibly to a new place. Because some of them have lost everything they own in those brief transactions. I'm feeling as though it's a matter of just further training of the officers. Finally, I want to invite the City Council to a film I'm showing on Thursday night at the Eugene Art House called A Rising Tide. It's a film about the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda County in terms of how they have managed to face homelessness and deal with a rising tide of homelessness there. And it's an incredibly good and articulate film. And I'd like you to try to be there on Thursday night at 6:30 at the Eugene Art House to see the film and to make it known that you're there if you are there. And I will call on you to be introduced and even make a comment after the film.
Thank you, Wayne. Our next speakers are Jensina Hawkins, followed by Eric Blair.
Good evening, councilors, Madam Mayor, Assistant City Manager Rodriguez. Madam Mayor, this is not my first time speaking for public comment, but I still want a smile from you. Thank you. I live in Churchill area neighbors. I am proud to say that Randy Groves is my counselor. I'll start this evening by addressing the elephant I brought into the room by being here this evening. I am the former most recent chair of the Police Commission, and I heard this evening during the work session that my resignation from the Police Commission was addressed. First of all, I want to say that I very much am very grateful and so proud of Amelia Folks for stepping up to be the chair. And I really hope that the City of Eugene expresses their thanks to previous Mayor Venus for finding Amelia Folks and recommending her appointment to the Police Commission. I am encouraged by the changes that have been made and have been addressed at the city level. My resignation from the Police Commission was in no way a reflection of my opinion of Eugene Police Department or Chief Skinner, and I want that to be very clear. For the remainder of my time, I'm speaking as an Asian American living in the city of Eugene. It has been widely published that there has been a string of burglaries targeting Asian Americans. In the past year and a half or so, there's been 21 burglaries targeting the homes of Asian Americans. If you think about that number in context of Asians making up less than 4% of the demographics here in Eugene, think about it. Do you even know 21 Asians? Do you know 21 homes of Asians? And I would challenge you to consider that and the sheer enormity of that. Eugene Police Department did a fantastic job of arresting 7 of them on Thursday evening and putting them in jail. But one of them has already bailed out. The others are likely to bail out very soon due to some loopholes in Oregon's system, and they will be free to continue their reign of terror. On October 23rd, the Asian American Council of Oregon is holding a public safety forum, and our guest panelists will be the chiefs of police of Springfield and Eugene, as well as Lane County District Attorney Christopher Perosa, and a senior prosecutor with the Oregon Department of Justice Bias Hotline. We encourage all of you to be there. In addition, I highly, highly strongly request that the City Council issue a statement of support in solidarity with your Asian American residents in the city of Eugene.
Thank you, Jensina. Our next speakers are Eric Blair, followed by Danny Huffsmith. Is there an Eric Blair in the room? Okay, I will call for Eric one more time, but our next speaker is Danny Huffsmith. Danny, you can go on up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. My name is Danny. I live in Ward 2. Here we go. There's gonna be a lawsuit on your hands if you don't cancel the contract. Cancel the contract. There's gonna be
Speaker, I'm going to interrupt for just one moment. Only the speaker should be heard during public comment. Please and thank you adhere to that request, or else we'll have to make other adjustments. But we do very much want to hear what the person giving public comment has to say.
Thank you, Mayor. There's gonna be a lawsuit on your hands if you don't cancel the contract. Cancel the contract. Sarah Mederi, please listen closely. Please open your heart. The council has spoken. The people have spoken. Democracy has spoken. There's gonna be a lawsuit on your hands if you don't cancel the contract. Cancel the contract. There's gonna be a lawsuit on your hands if you don't cancel the contract. Cancel the contract tonight.
Thank you, Danny. One last call for Eric Blair. Not seeing Eric, our next speakers are Jacob True and Cameron Stringfield.
Hello there, City Council. Jacob True here. I live in Ward 1. Thank you for the time to speak. I had a speech planned, but Sarah Mederi's comments about the pause on the flock contract obviated quite a bit of it. But I do want to continue ahead and give thanks to the unanimous City Council decision to pause/turn off the flock cameras pending a deeper discussion on public surveillance and data retention policy, which I'm looking forward to at a future work session. But yeah, thank you, Sarah Mederi. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it very much. I'd also like to speak briefly on the fact that since April, Eugene has been without Kahoot service, and we are absolutely looking forward to a work session that was promised to us by the end of October about bringing Kahoot-style service back to Eugene. And looking forward to that being on the agenda, tentative agenda. It's not there yet, but we're certainly looking forward to it. Yeah, I won't belabor the point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacob. Our next speakers are Cameron Stringfield, followed by Hunter Hutchins.
Hello, my name is Cameron Stringfield. I live in Ward 7, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I want to start by saying that for the last several months, I have not been happy with this city council. The budget nightmare earlier this year, the silence on ICE kidnappings and DHS violence against people in the city, and the lack of a bold response to the flock cameras has made me really disappointed in this council and caused me to not have much faith in it. But last Wednesday, for the first time, I was actually proud of this city council. You took a bold, correct step and took urgent action to turn off the flock cameras. I know some councilors expressed frustration that a motion was put on the table for this, but I think that's the exact kind of courageous action we need from this council. When something is dangerous, and urgent, we have to act fast to stop it, not spend months having conversations that go nowhere. The motion to pause the cameras was also still an 8-0 decision. City Manager Medary, thank you for supporting that decision and deciding to turn off the cameras. Learning from the saga out of Evanston, Illinois, though, when the city voted to remove the cameras, Flock wouldn't do it, then did, then put them back up. They ended up having to cover them with black bags. I would also encourage affixing opaque plastic bags over the cameras to prevent Flock from keeping them on. However, let's go further than that. Let's end this whole AI mass surveillance nightmare. Council members, please move with courage and urgency to terminate the contract with Flock and remove the Flock cameras. As many of you stated, we just cannot trust Flock. You already know the abuses, the vulnerabilities, and the shady practices of Flock. What more is there to know? Chief Skinner recently said, quote, "I promise you we will have this technology here," end quote. Skinner, you shouldn't make promises you can't keep. It's not your decision to make. However, I can promise you that we will continue to fight the Flock cameras, drawing in as many allies as we can until they are gone from our community. Let's not drag this out. Let's just make the right decision now. Get the Flock out.
Thank you, Cameron. Our next speakers are Hunter Hutchins, followed by Donovan Mallory.
Hi, Hunter Hutchins, Ward 1. Across the alley from my apartment, my neighbor installed some loud refrigeration equipment which runs on and off all day and all night. It is preventing me from sleeping and ruining my quality of life. I contacted code enforcement for help. Now, Eugene doesn't really have an ordinance for noise limits at a residential property boundary, so the inspector had to wing it and use something that technically it kind of doesn't really apply, his words, limited to 60 decibels. My location tested at 58 decibels all day and night. So what to do? Well, it turns out that Portland, Oregon already solved this problem. In Portland, the noise limit at a residential boundary is limited to 55 decibels. That is half of the 58 decibels at my location because decibels are not linear. But wait, there's more. If the noise is a fixed frequency, like a droning, Portland further reduces the limit to 50 decibels. But wait, there's more. Portland also includes a time differential, which means from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., there's a further 5 decibel reduction in the noise limit. That is 45 decibels. That is a resident-friendly ordinance. You don't need to worry about every detail to develop this ordinance because Portland has already done the due diligence, who knows how many years ago, and it works. It works for business and it works for residents. They developed it because businesses were abusing their neighbors with all kinds of commercial and industrial noise outside people's homes. They put a stop to it. Eliza, contact code enforcement or code enforcement in Portland and ask them about their municipal ordinance 18.10.010. Make a proposal and put it to a vote. Eugene can be a friendlier city with better living conditions. I am not the only person impacted, but I am badly impacted. I have a letter here which summarizes my situation and includes a copy of the codes. I have 9 copies here, so you can share them. Let me know if I can help you in some way. City Council, contact code enforcement or code enforcement in Portland. Ask them about their ordinance 18.10.010. Propose an update to Eugene's municipal code and put it to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. Our next speakers are Donovan Mallory, followed by Danny Patch.
Good evening, Mayor Knudsen, council members, and fellow members of the Greater Eugene community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I stand before you to urge this council to reject the continued deployment of Flock AI surveillance and move with progress in the steps past the steps they've already made and cancel the contract with these Flock AI cameras. These AI-driven license plate reader cameras are often sold as crime-fighting tools, but their hidden costs to our privacy, safety, and public funds are simply too high. I apologize if I'm covering anything that you guys already know. I have not been to one of these council meetings yet, and I'm just going over what I know. A Kansas officer has used the surveillance network to look for women in August of last year that he had recently broken up with. This is a violation of her rights And there's nothing stopping our officers, not saying that any of our officers would do this, but there's nothing stopping our officers from doing it as well. In April of this year, a Texas officer used the Flock database to track a woman seeking safe abortion, which is currently illegal in our neighboring state of Idaho. Access to safe health care is vital, as is clear by Oregon residents that we still have access to safe abortion. It would pain me to see a woman seeking something that she feels right for herself be tracked down using these AI Flock cameras in our state of Oregon. A major concern that I have with these is that despite being marketed as a security camera, the cameras themselves are not all that secure. They broadcast both Bluetooth and WPA2 frequencies, which are very common in home Wi-Fi routers as well. And these frequencies that are used for two pieces of technology to communicate with each other are very outdated, and their security infrastructure is easily exploitable. It is easy for would-be hackers to teach themselves how to hack these cameras and track people, and I feel that it is very unsafe for us to continue to even have these cameras in our towns. Black bags are removable, and they can be used to track people against what is legal.
Thank you, Donovan. Your time is concluded. Our next speakers are Danny Patch, followed by Liam O'Grady.
I have two side questions. I'm still wondering what happened to the close to $15,000 that was raised this summer for the SOS organization that some of the councilor members actually spearheaded themselves. What happened to the money? And also, I thought that we had an ordinance in this town outlawing reader boards, especially these new LED bright ones. We have a brand new one outside the city police station. It looks a little bit like Las Vegas meets Hunger Games, and it really destroys your night vision. And I thought we had a city ordinance against such trash. Can you imagine what our city will look like in 20 years? Disgusting. You know, I'm sure you're all really tired of us coming up here and whining and yelling at you, but maybe if you had a little bit better sense of how we feel before you do things, you wouldn't find so many people in this room. You're not doing a very good job of reading your audience, reading your public. Your intuition is horrible. You spend millions of dollars on yourselves. You take away our right to vote on financial matters. Then you put up spy cameras, and you think that we're going to be happy with you? Wouldn't you actually think about some of these things before you do it? I mean, you just sound like we're always trying to play catch up with your stupidity. And I don't understand why you're not a little bit more on top of your game. Some of you are educated. And I'm just wondering why we always have to come back here after the fact and scold you for doing nasty things and stabbing us in the back. You've destroyed the financial community with your summer annex because you used all your money to buy this piece of garbage. And then you put up cameras to spy on us and then record it. And then you take away our right to vote. And that is the primary number one thing that we're missing here. Without our right to vote, we can't help you control your spending habits. Give us back our right to vote, you scamming losers. You.
Thank you, Danny. Our next speakers are Liam O'Grady, followed by Bailey Gilmore.
This is on a piece for our connectivity as a community as we get down to the nitty-gritty. The story of a foreign frog from out of town coming to honor frog. How does the town of Bend come together in generating opportunity of inner welfare, outreach services, affording programs for street teams that welcome wayfarers to safe haven counseling systems that are able to address the complex simplicity and diversity and our confusing psychological uncertainty of various cases, best funded by depicting in public eye the long-term benefits of focusing our village body care presently on the investing in public welfare as a whole, through treating the deepest wound in the area that would pay off more than a new murder mystery novel, and be conscious decision to make in the long run, helping the needy find the best way out of karmic debt, learning our collective lesson quicker as all for one and one another and one another for all. The question, are there elders that have insight into local views on how we can feasibly transcend an oppressive system, landing a spot between just ends in need of great therapy that helps the reciprocal process between be maintained because it's conducive in being present to the local community, to accessibility, and to need meeting resources? Are there clues as to a natural process for networking in the area that is most feasible in working with what we are currently aware of leading towards? Better knowledge of who is available with what abilities can bridge from point to point that rhythm of comfortable, sufficient activity, ever cities sufficient together as one endeavoring peaceably? Is there a vibration of a pattern that cares for one another happily in a circle that most effectively generates the sustainability of regularity in navigating, opening our mind's eye to a possibility of public interaction therapeutically that is best suited for our goals being achieved? For the dream of happening, search and recover, foundation, rescue, rhythm system.
Thank you, Liam. Your time is concluded. Our next speakers this evening are Bailey Gilmore, followed by Gregory McPherson.
Hello, my name is Bailey Gilmore, and I live in Ward 1. Mayor, I heard what you shared at the beginning of the meeting, and I just want to say I feel for your experience. City Council, I want to thank you for taking action to pause the flock cameras, the dangerous surveillance system. I am here to deliver a letter on behalf of 16 community organizations calling on you to reject harmful surveillance and end the contract with Flock. Those organizations include 5051 Eugene, Avello out of Eugene, Civil Liberties Defense Center, Conflict Artistry LLC, Cottage Grove Friends of Democracy, Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation, Kilgren Law LLC, Blaine County Immigrant Defense Network, Oregon Community Asylum Network, Party for Socialism and Liberation, Planet versus Pentagon, Queer Eugene, Springfield Eugene Showing Up for Racial Justice, SEIU 503 Local 085, Trans Alliance of Lane County, and UO Student Workers UAW 8121. I'll leave a copy of this letter here in the box, as well as send one to your email. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey. Our next speakers are Gregory McPherson, followed by Jeff Salata.
I'm Greg McPherson. I'm from Ward 5. Am I correct that I can cede my time to my sister, who's also a speaker this evening? No?
No, thank you for asking, though. Each speaker has 3 minutes.
Okay, very good.
I'm sorry, 2.5 minutes. Pardon me.
All right, we're still ticking, huh? Okay, I will pleasure you with my input. I'm a former chair of Good Pasture Island Neighbors, a former chair of my HOA for Island Lakes condominiums. This was in reference to CO2 2501, which is a land use application which has just recently been denied. There's a gate with razor wire right south of the Beltline on Good Pasture Island that many of us have walked and bicycled through, and are relatively consternated that we all of a sudden face a fence. Now, we understand that it is city-owned property, but planning for some reason insists that it's owned by Valley River Village. So we are still working on that. So we're just trying to get some information out. Obviously, it doesn't affect everybody in Eugene, but everybody on Good Pasture Island, it is a freedom of use. It's a transit area. It's also an environmental area, which my sister will follow me somewhere along this line and give you some of her environmental input. But for me, just as a person and a walker and a bicyclist, you've got a fence that is locked, obviously, and razor wire, which is very unsightly. You can see it from the freeway. I'm sure Mike's probably seen it. It's unfortunate. We're trying to find a solution. It's on appeal as we speak. So, with no further ado, I thank you for just letting me mention that. Bring it to your attention. And she has documents in the box.
Thank you, Gregory. Our next speakers are Jeff Salata, followed by Ellie Urbancic.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. You may have heard many of the points I will make before, but they bear repeating. I first became aware of flock cameras a couple months ago via a comprehensive exposition on YouTube, and since then I've learned even more thanks to the help of many amazing community members. This issue deeply concerns me, as it should everyone, and while I've never spoken here before, this issue has made it unavoidable. I also come before you today as a victim of violence. In 2007, I was assaulted here in Eugene. I was punched and put into a chokehold by the ex of my then girlfriend after he had stalked and jumped me in an alleyway. I only mention this because I know how it feels to burn and seethe with the desire for justice to be served, to bring closure to victims. Chief Skinner has repeatedly couched his support and outright promotion of Flock as a means to help victims, and I get it. I really do. This is a very important consideration, but Flock is not the way to do it. I say this because in this very moment, we are all victims of pervasive, round-the-clock surveillance by a private company. The nationwide abuses committed by Flock itself and law enforcement using Flock should shock and appall everyone here. You can't say you've helped the victim if in that process you've created a trail of victims in their wake, or, and has been the case, created new victims as a direct result of Flock usage. Flock Safety is an extraordinarily well-funded data broker that has received vast sums of money from people both materially and ideologically aligned with the current administration. If you subscribe to any of the tenets of this community, openness, compassion, respect for dignity and diversity of humans and the environment, then a quick assessment would reveal the incompatibility of Flock Safety in Eugene. This year alone, Flock Safety has spent $460,000 lobbying the Office of Administration, an entity within the Executive Office of the President, according to OpenSecrets.org. Furthermore, and on a more granular level, the City of Eugene does not, will not, and has no ultimate authority over any of the data collected by Flock cameras. These cameras, their software, belong to Flock, period. As a delivery driver, I have probably already created.
Thank you, Jeff. Your time is concluded. Our next speakers are Ellie Urbancic, followed by Willie Gibney.
Good evening. I'll try to keep my comments brief because I know there are a lot of people waiting in line. My name is Ellie Urbancic, and I'm a member of Ward 3. And I would just like to express my sincere gratitude towards the City Council and City Manager for making the decision to pause Flock cameras in the next 24 hours. I really appreciate that. And I would also like to express in the strongest way possible that the importance of the City Council and City Manager to end the contract with Flock as soon as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ellie. Our next speakers are Willie Gibney, followed by Patricia McPherson.
Hello, my name is Willie Gibney. I'm in Ward 7. And first off, I'd like to thank you all for pausing the Flock cameras. I think that was very good of you and courageous of all of you to vote like you did. Now, I'd please like to have you cancel the whole thing. Please I don't want to be surveilled. My friends don't want to be surveilled. I don't want my data sold by flock to the highest bidder. And I know you guys are going to do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willie. Our next speakers are Patricia McPherson, followed by Stan Taylor.
Hi, Patricia McPherson. It's the first time in front of you. I've seen you guys a lot on TV, and Mayor Newsom, I want to thank you because people across the country are getting to know you for standing up for Oregon and sticking up for woke and sticking up for DEI. Thank you very much. And I watched all of you for the 8th. Thank you for that meeting. I would like to continue with what Greg was talking about, which is Goodpasture Island Planned Unit Development 84-1, which was approved in 1990. This was a conditionally approved PUD to protect the wetland and riparian habitat corridors that are also greenway, open space, public easement, and drainage ways between the Willamette River and the Diedrich Sloughs and some of the old sloughs, other old sloughs through there. I've brought information here for you. This pathway was closed without letting anyone know in our PUD, except for a couple of entities that are there. Apparently, the planning department seems to think that there aren't independent homeowner associations there, and there are, including ours, which is the condominiums, and also the Heron Point, which is also all of the commercial area, which attracts all of the people of Eugene. This area has been closed off, and we do have an appeal in. What was not mentioned at all in the appeal was that we had Lane County Audubon had submitted a letter to keep this area open. We have Lane County Land Watch, who applied all of their influence to try to keep this area open. But on top of that, we have Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, who has now mapped this area. I don't know if any of you know, this is a priority wildlife corridor. There's a stepping stone corridor on one of the areas of our PUD, but the northernmost section connects with and is contiguous with the Delta Ponds Enhancement Plan, which we all know is trying to move forward. I don't know about you, but I have spent my entire adult life working to save habitat, and I have been working to save wetlands my entire adult life. I used to be...
Thank you, Patricia. Your time is concluded. Our next speakers are Stan Taylor, followed by Chris Calef.
Hi, my name is Stan Taylor. I'm in Ward 1, and I want to thank Councilor Keating for announcing the October 18th No Kings rally. I'm the leader of Indivisible Eugene Springfield and part of ACES, the Activist Coalition of Eugene Springfield, that is organizing this event. I have put flyers here to share with all of you to invite you to come and join us in the event. We would like to see you there. I'm here tonight to talk again about the flock cameras and urge you, first to thank you for what you've already done to pause them, but I want to urge you to make the policy that will end this contract for Eugene. You know, when you begin to look at this trade-off between liberty and security, the understanding is not quite as clear as many people think. You know, for me, one of the ways I think about this came from an 18th century philosopher named Jeremy Bentham, who created a prison called the Panopticon. And the Panopticon was a prison where it had a tower in the center and cells around the outside. And the whole philosophy about it was that the prisoners will think they are being watched and will conform their behavior to what the enforcement, the authorities, want them to be. And that power of being watched doesn't just mean that criminals are caught through this process. It means that everybody in society is watched through this process, and everybody in society then has constitutional behavior dampened by this effect. It has a chilling effect on constitutional rights for everyone in our community. And that trade-off is not a good trade-off. So again, I urge you to take the additional steps to hold the city to its feet, the managers to the fire, and end these contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Our next speakers are Chris Califf, followed by Rob Sheldon.
Hello, my name is Chris Califf. I'm in Ward 2. And I came down here partly to talk about Flock, but that's been talked about plenty. I think we've covered everything. The only thing I would add to the conversation is I do have a friend who works at eWeb, and apparently they've been putting these on the eWeb poles without permission, which is another factor to bring up. It's endangering linemen. It's in their way. It's just another reason that we should just cancel this contract and get rid of it. But the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight was this upcoming city manager hiring process. And first, I'd like to make it known, I know that it's a city charter change, there's nothing going to happen right away, but I wish we didn't have a city manager. I voted for Mayor Knudsen, and I believe you'd be a great mayor. I wish you ran the city, and we didn't have to have a bureaucrat run the city who we don't even know. But in going forward, I'd really like to encourage the council to look into the future, the near future of our country, and where we are in a blue state, and just understand that we're entering very dangerous times. We are currently being under assault by the government of our country. We have a president who hates us. He has said it. He hates blue states, and he hates Democratic voters. And we're going to have to make hard decisions. I mean, like, how do we make sure that our constitutional rights are going to be safe in Eugene when we have an armed force of masked agents that are tearing people from their homes and putting them into vans? Like, I feel like we need the National Guard and the EPD against ICE. Like, we need people to be, if we're moving into a future where we're electing a manager to run, or we're choosing a manager to run our city, we need to look for someone who's going to represent our local values and not be someone who's just a good bureaucrat. You know, you're not going to learn in school how to run a city like Eugene under fire from the federal government. So, in addition to that, I only have a few seconds left, but the other major item I'm concerned about vis-a-vis the last city manager is the homeless problem here. And that is that it's not in tune with my values to give people 2 hours notice or less and then take away all their possessions. I believe that we can find better solutions for this. I mean, we could, it's within our power to set aside a large area and let everyone camp there and have security and bathrooms and showers. I mean, that's some thousands of dollars. It's not millions. We could bring safety to people immediately. And we have not done that yet, and I would like to see that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speakers are Rob Sheldon, followed by Scott Lambert.
Hi, good evening. Most of all, I would like to say thank you. A lot of people were either tuned in and watching your work session on October 8th or had joined a live chat. It was high drama. There were gasps and cheers. Thank you to Councillor Kaczynski for having the courage to make the motion to turn Flock off before the meeting ran out of time. Thank you to Councillor Keating for all of your efforts in hearing the community's concerns and for clearly being on top of things during the work session. Thank you to Councillor Ye, for also taking a lot of time to hear from the community, but also clearly doing a lot of your own homework. Thank you to Councillor Zelenka for your thoughtful, considered, and balanced treatment of the subject. Thank you to Councillor Evans for starting out with a story about socks, but getting there in the end. Thank you also to Councillor Leach, who didn't really get a chance to speak, but I hope we'll get to hear her thoughts too. And thank you to City Manager Metairie for tonight's welcomed news. You are no doubt under a lot of pressure from Chief Skinner on the opposite side here. I'm sure you've heard him credit Flock with cracking one high-profile case or another. The thing is, our argument has never been that there aren't benefits to using this particular surveillance system. There are also benefits to having the National Guard deployed in our community. Maybe they could rake some leaves. The question has been whether the risks outweigh the benefits, whether it creates the kind of society we want to live in. Some people like the idea of having troops patrolling in their neighborhood, but most recognize it as a society that they don't want to live in, a more oppressive society. Chief Skinner is looking at only one side of the equation. We are advocating for balancing multiple concerns for community safety. Flock is a bad company to be partnered with. Axon, who makes the body cams that so many police departments use already, along with a lot of other products, partnered with Flock. It should have been an easy match, but Axon found Flock to be so slimy that they dissolved the partnership earlier this year. Flock's products are the wrong kind of solutions to the problems facing modern policing, and this is a system being pushed into communities at very much the wrong time. This issue extends far beyond Eugene. Other communities around the country are experiencing this same situation, a public that is broadly opposed to Flock having snuck into their neighborhoods. Other communities are also making the decision to terminate their contracts with Flock. So I hope you will be able to stay the course and let the many people in our neighborhoods that are upset by this breathe a sigh of relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Our next speakers are Scott Lambert, followed by Hava Cronin.
Good evening, councilors and mayor. My name is Scott Lambert. I'm a PhD candidate in physics at the University of Oregon and a member of GTFF Local 3544. On Tuesday, around 4 p.m., Mayor Knudsen and I both witnessed an unhoused man aggressively yelling at a runner on the river path. Mayor Knudsen called Lane County Mobile Crisis Services. By the time the man left, at least 10 minutes later, they had not arrived. After I spoke with the man and attempted to calm him down, I could not help but wonder how much money Flock cost the city and how that money could have kept cahoots here, which might have been able to provide this man with assistance that could have prevented this entire situation. So with regards to the No Kings rally, the support of the council, the verbal support of the council for that means nothing if you are all actively funding the installation of the Trump police state in our city. So I appreciate that City Manager Mederi has promised to turn the cameras off. However, if Chief Skinninger and Manager Mederi will not respect the will of the people of this city and the 8 democratically elected members of the Flock working group, so if anything happens to interrupt that turning off, they need to be terminated as city employees, as they cannot be trusted to execute the will of the people. Furthermore, turning off the cameras is not enough. The contract needs to be ended and the cameras removed. I fully expect Chief Skinner and Flock to drag their feet as much as possible when removing the cameras and ending this, for us expensive, for Flock lucrative contract. Defunding essential public services like cahoots, supporting ICE, and funding militarized police and surveillance systems are characteristics of fascist governments. Do not expect us to take your opposition to the Trump administration seriously if your policies are fascist in nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Our next speakers are Hava Cronin, followed by Josh Easterland.
Hi, good evening. My name is Hava Cronin. I live in Ward 7. I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer. I work as a housing specialist for Head Start of Lane County. I'm here, though, as myself. I don't represent Head Start. As I said, I'm a housing specialist. And I am concerned about the houseless situation also in our community. Maslow's hierarchy says that housing is a basic need. We can't become fully actualized unless we have the stability of housing. I work with low-income families that are rent burdened, which means they're paying over 40% of their income on rent. That means they're not saving for vacations. They're not paying for their children, going to be able to pay for their children's college education. They're not going to be able to buy new shoes for their children. One area that I would really appreciate if the city could direct the city staff to investigate is creating a moratorium on non-owner occupied short-term rentals, otherwise known as Airbnbs. Airbnbs, these ones that are non-owner occupied, so I'm not talking about someone who has a room in their house or an ADU in their backyard. I'm talking about a house that is empty, except when it's being used for short-term profit during a housing crisis, that it be made banned. It should be banned from the urban setting. Other cities across the country have done it, and other cities and other countries have done this. And I know that Eugene is a lot smaller than, for example, Irvine, California, or Las Vegas, but per capita, we have one of the highest rates of homelessness. And short-term rentals, non-owner-occupied short-term rentals, play a role in that. So I would appreciate if the city could investigate and see if it would make an impact if we could ban them during a housing crisis. And we will know we are no longer in a housing crisis when renting is affordable, when we don't have people, businesses complaining about the houseless or houseless brothers and sisters on our street, we'll know that the housing crisis is over. And at that point, rent all you want, short-term rentals. But until then, let's think about housing and how it is a human right. Thank you.
Thank you, Hava. Our next speakers are Josh Easterland, followed by Maya Burke.
Hello, City Councilors. Nice to see you again. I'm Josh Easterland, Ward 8, Director of Equitable Access Eugene. Again, coming to request that you consider decriminalizing the ability to grow, gather, and gift psychedelic plants and fungi. Here within Eugene, there's a lot of new faces here, and many of them might not know that even though 60% of Lane County voted to decriminalize, they were recently overturned at the state level and have been recriminalized, all drugs, including psychedelics. And so I've spent the last 3 or 4 sessions reading over my resolution, and I'm just going to continue right now. I'm at the still in the whereas section. So whereas entheogenic cacti that contain phenethylamine compounds, such as mescaline, can be beneficial in healing drug and alcohol addiction and for individual spiritual growth, and have been utilized in sacred initiation and community healing by diverse religious and cultural traditions for millennia, and continuing to use as religious sacraments in modern times. And whereas, upon the request of the Native American Church, peyote will not be included in the resolution. And whereas entheogenic fungi that contain psilocybin and psilocin naturally occurring in entheogenic mushrooms can alleviate end-of-life anxiety for hospice and terminal cancer patients, reduce prison recidivism, and can effectively treat substance abuse, depression, and cluster headaches. And whereas a Johns Hopkins University study on healthy normals found that psilocybin can occasion mystical type experiences, which were considered to be of the top 5 most meaningful experiences in a subject's life for over 75% of their subjects within the first year after the study, and also found continuing positive lifestyle changes after a 14-month follow-up. And whereas the City of Eugene wishes to declare its desire not to expend city resources of any investigation, detention, arrest, or prosecution arising out of alleged violations regarding the use of entheogenic plants, now therefore be, and I guess I'll jump into the resolve next time. So talk to you then.
Thank you, Josh. Our next speakers are Maya Burke, followed by Ken Willis.
My name is Maya. I'm from Ward 1, and I'm here to urge you yet again to take down those cameras. They're a vile violation of our privacy. They are a negligent violation of Sanctuary City's policy, and they're a ripoff for the city. Flock does not just read license plates, it photographs and AI profiles every detail about a car, including bumper stickers and other markers of political opinion. That takes away my privacy, regardless of what any lawyer might say about implied consent because I'm driving a vehicle. Take them down. Second, ICE has already used Flock data to facilitate raids in other places. Flock can claim that they're not going to let them do that, but as we've heard already tonight, their devices are extremely insecure. A 12-year-old can get that data. DHS can definitely get that data about your bumper stickers and your political opinions. I've said there, I think. Lastly, they sold this to all of you as a tool that's going to make policing easier. Unfortunately, as we've seen both in police affairs and in less pleasantly occupation situations, surveillance is not a substitute for the cooperation of the population. And Flock would do grievous and irreversible damage to the relationship between the police department and the general establishment with the public. Nothing gets solved if nobody talks to the police. And once people realize that Flock is an electronic boot on their neck, nobody's going to want to help the guy wearing the boot. It's going to cost money, not save it, and in the long term, it's not going to get more criminals caught. It's going to get more cases abandoned for lack of information. So just take them down. Enough said.
Thank you, Maya. Our next speakers are Ken Willis, followed by Phil Farrington.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ken Willis. I'm from Ward 5, and I wanted to start by saying to the mayor, it takes a lot of grit and grace to admit what you did, and I found that pretty impressive, so best of luck to you. Thank you to all you for the 8-0 vote. I was up here a couple of weeks ago talking about my daughter and my wife and our evening walks and the damage that Flock has done to that, and to know that that damage can be corrected means a lot. To the city manager, takes a lot to be in the position you're in, and I respect the fact that it's stressful, you're not fun, you're getting pulled in 1,000 different directions, but making the correct choice to pull these cameras puts trust back in you as an individual, you as in the office. It's just a good thing. But with all that said and done, I still can't come to grips with the fact that Chris Skinner brought this into the town clandestinely. For me, that's such a violation of trust. I just don't trust or have respect for Chris Skinner anymore, and I'm going to be real frank about that. There was no excuse for this other than to get a product online as quickly as possible, apologize, but not fix the problem and move on. You're all sick of talking about this. We're sick of talking about this. This has been a nightmare for everybody. The contract has to be canceled. The cameras have to be pulled down. That's all there is to it. I would really like to see the contract completely done away with. No pauses, no nothing like that. We need to move on as a city and do things better. And when this is all said and done, I think we need to have a real serious conversation as to whether Chris Skinner is the right man for the job in this town, because I have no more trust or respect for the man. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ken. Our next speakers are Phil Farrington, followed by Joe Liebersbach.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors. My name is Phil Farrington. I work as the Planning and Real Estate Development Director for CDC Management Corp., owners of property in North Eugene. For nearly a year, I've been working on a project to create a parcel to be used for a new VA behavioral health clinic. I'm happy to inform you that some 2 weeks ago, we successfully completed the partition process and land sale, which will locate this much-needed facility adjacent to the existing Veterans Affairs Medical Clinic. I'd like to extend thanks to city staff for their ability to grant land use approvals within this project's timeline. In particular, I'd like to give thanks to Bray Black, Nathan Scheib, Denny Bro, and other city and county staff who helped move quickly along this partition process. The clinic developer has submitted building permit plans for review with the city. It's my hope that plan review staff will be duly motivated to help quickly grant building permit approvals and help deliver this important project. Thanks again to city staff for your promptness and professionalism. Good night.
Thank you, Phil. Our next speakers are Joe Liebersbach, followed by Beck Bentz.
Good evening, Mayor Knudsen, Council, and City staff. My name is Joe Liebersbach, and I'm the Director of Business Advocacy at the Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to lighten things up a bit. First off, I just want to say thank you to every single one of you. I know this work isn't easy. You sit in these seats week after week, balancing strong opinions, tight budgets, and very limited hours in the day. And you all still show up authentically because you care deeply about this city. The same as every single person behind me. Your service does not go unnoticed. I have the privilege of working with more than 1,200 local business leaders, including the family-owned shops of downtown to the manufacturers that employ hundreds. Together, they represent thousands of family wage jobs and a whole lot of investment back into our community. One myth that I'll happily spend my whole career trying to bust is that fighting climate change, supporting and protecting our most vulnerable neighbors, elevating marginalized voices, as well as running a successful business in our community are somehow competing goals. They're absolutely not. All of the business leaders I know care deeply about this place and the people in it. They wouldn't invest their time and money and start families here if they didn't. And right now, more than ever, we need a pragmatic approach to how we work together in this city. And I mean pragmatic in being honest about what's working and what's not, and being willing to find common sense solutions. That's why I reached out to all of you last week about public forum access. Civic engagement is the heart of local democracy, but it's not always accessible. Picture a single parent who rearranges their work schedule, lines up childcare, and comes down to City Hall to share their perspective. Then, because of how the speaker order is randomized, they all end up at the end of the list and never get to speak. It happens more often than you think. A small and simple change, like asking speakers if they testified in the last month, could open the door for new voices without taking anything away from those who come often. Staff could then make 2 lists, one that would be randomized with those who have not spoken this month and another with those who have. Those that haven't would go first, and then those that have would go up next. It's a simple, no-cost way to make sure that more people get a seat at the table. And I will leave you with this quote because I have a couple extra seconds. If you are more fortunate than others, build a longer table, not a taller fence. Thank you for listening and everything you do in this community.
Thank you, Joe. Our next speakers are Beck Bentz, followed by Sam Edwards.
Members of City Council, thank you for voting unanimously during your work session for a motion to pause Flock. Thank you for listening and for your courage. You made us proud. City Manager Sarah Medary, thank you for pausing the cameras for 24 hours. I recommend leaving them off. Yours is a difficult position, but the will of the public is pretty clear here. Members of City Council, we demand you go further and terminate the contract with Flock. It's a trap. It promises security and, on the other hand, funnels intimate data of our comings and goings to some of the most punitive and bloodthirsty elements of law enforcement across the country. It offers up Eugene residents on a golden platter to wolves. Can you imagine if the Nazis had access to something like Flock? Oh my God, they would have loved Flock. That is the gravity of our situation. We are further down the funnel than we think. ICE is racially profiling and disappearing not only undocumented immigrants, but American citizens who just happen to not be white. Every little thing we can do to make it harder for them will save lives. In conclusion, end the contract with Flock and council members. I don't know what tools are available to you to hinder ICE and get them out of our community, but we urge you to use them. You have the opportunity to be remembered well in the history of our city. Please do that. I yield my time.
Thank you, Beck. Our next speakers are Sam Edwards, followed by Aaron Anderson.
Good evening. I'm Sam Edwards of Ward 8, speaking on Flock. I would first like to thank this council for calling for a pause in the use of the Flock technology until the ramifications can be better understood. I would particularly like to commend the leadership of Councilors Ye and Keating. May your ongoing discretion and care be an example to us all. I also would like to congratulate Councilors Kaczynski and Zelenka for your successful motion to recommend the pause. And Councilor Groves, I would also like to thank you personally as a member of your ward for your affirming vote. I know it came with some great difficulty because of your misgivings about how the motion was brought and your general criticism of Flock's opponents. Nonetheless, I believe your decision reflected good integrity, a willingness to, or an openness to differing perspectives, and a commendable willingness to pause and reflect. And I trust in the near future you will begin to take great pride in your moment of prudence. Finally, I'd like to bring a word of warning to the full council. In Wednesday's work session, EPD presented a slide that said that Flock is secured with ADF 256 encryption. I'm well versed in encryption technology, and I can tell you that while there is no such thing, there is such a thing as AES 256, the Advanced Encryption Standard. If I may infer, EPD probably misheard AES in a grainy phone call with their Flock representative, and then put that error directly into the slide uninspected. I'm alarmed by this because if when there are when such a basic detail goes unverified, despite all of this controversy, it raises serious questions about whether EPD may be acting out of greater deference to the Flock Corporation than to the community that they have sworn to serve and protect. So I don't make this charge lightly, but I do urge the council to apply due diligence to all statements that EPD makes regarding Flock in the future. Thank you, and I wish everyone here a very pleasant evening.
Thank you, Sam. Our next speakers are Aaron Anderson, followed by Rob Fizette.
Hi, I'm Aaron Anderson, Ward 1, Friendly Area Neighborhoods. First, I would like to thank all of you for pausing the contract on the Flock cameras. and I would like to ask you to consider canceling it entirely. I believe that technology that could theoretically be abused by government or police to infringe on citizens' rights eventually will be. The stated purpose of the flock cameras is to identify violators of traffic laws. However, I believe that this will ultimately be a secondary purpose at best. It's also been stated that the flock cameras do not have facial recognition technology. I simply do not believe this is true. Let's see. Ultimately, I believe that due to poor security and nebulous habits of the Flock Corporation, flock footage will ultimately wind up in the hands of the federal government, who will use that footage to track and identify union leaders, protest leaders, anybody who is involved in protests against the government, anybody who is exercising their constitutional rights. Consider, for example, the upcoming No Kings March this Saturday. While it's my understanding the flock cameras will not be active on that day, they may be active on similar days, and with footage from the flock cameras, the federal government could identify individuals in the protest, and at a later date, use flock footage to track their movement and potentially intercept them with federal agents. The federal agents may illegally threaten these people or possibly even disappear them, as ICE seems so fond of doing. I believe that if allowed to continue, these flock cameras will be used to persecute union leaders, LGBTQ individuals, people who are not citizens, and other similar individuals. So I would please ask you again to consider canceling the contract. Thank all of you.
Thank you, Aaron. Our next speakers are Rob Fizette, followed by Jeffrey Gordon.
Hello, City Council, City Manager, Mayor. Thanks for having us all tonight, and again, also appreciate your vote, 8-0, to pause the flock cameras and the City Manager's announcement tonight that they will be paused. That said, again, the intention, I think, for all of us, for most of us speaking here, is that the contract ultimately be canceled. And thinking about, like, the all-star lineup of people who, like, over the course of the last several months have come up here, data security experts, AES 250, I don't know what that is, but that, like a lot of technical knowledge, a lot of legal knowledge, the nationally renowned, iconic Civil Liberties Defense Center putting forward a legal argument that violates the First, violates the Fourth Amendment, and almost certainly violates the Oregon Revised Statute. Like, all of this extremely expert testimony, and the only response that seems to be coming is that we arrested another guy. There's like a PR campaign that, like, there's a press release about this arrest associated with Flock and this arrest associated with Flock. The data can't be secured. Data security experts coming up and saying the data can't be secured, but we arrested another guy. And the Civil Liberties Defense Center saying it violates the First and Fourth Amendment, but we arrested another guy. That's literally the only argument that's been brought forward for why we should continue to use this. And I think we all understand that that's just not a sufficient argument, that there are many things we could do that would result in the arrest of many additional guys that we're simply not willing to sacrifice for the purpose of all of our being under mass surveillance at all times. So that's mostly all that I wanted to say tonight, except I do hope to see you all at No Kings. I do hope to see you all at some point down at the federal building. I know that there's this trick that, like, the federal government is doing things and city government doesn't always have the power to respond. And this is definitely one thing you can do to put up a bubble that can't be punctured by the federal government trying to violate our sanctuary policy. But we can't really make policy about what ICE does or doesn't do often in town. But one thing that we can do, and that hundreds of people have done for the last several months down at the federal building, is show up. And we've brought detentions down at the federal building down to practically zero just by showing up. I think you can all do that. I welcome you to come join us.
Thank you, Rob. Our next speakers are Jeffrey Gordon, followed by Pete Goldlust.
Dr. Jeffrey Michael Dick Gordon. I live in Ward 7. Mayor, thank you for your candid vulnerability and perseverance. I appreciate the example that you set. And thank you, City Manager, councilors, and Mayor. I appreciate your integrity and accountability with your recent vote on Flock. please go further in terminating the contract with Flock. So, the city of Eugene has a rogue police chief, and it's time you put the collar back on. I watched the entirety of the most recent police commission meeting. During the meeting, Chief Skinner pressured the members of the commission to issue a policy position on the Flock surveillance dragnet, despite several members, including the new chair of the commission, expressing they had done absolutely no research on the technology. It took the intervention of Councillor Ye to be the voice of reason, pointing out that spending time to craft a proper policy was more important than rushing to issue bad policy in haste. Chief Skinner has done his best to avoid accountability to democratic public oversight. That's how we ended up in this mess. Further, on Indigenous Peoples Day, I want to acknowledge that a Holocaust is happening in Gaza, being conducted against an indigenous population in the name of manifest destiny. As a Jew who knows his history, I believe that never again means never again for everybody. To me, it is the deepest of sins to witness fellow Jews conducting a final solution against a captive population. So I want to say this on public record. Hitler killed our bodies, but Zionism kills our souls. Hitler killed our bodies, but Zionism kills our souls. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Our final speaker is Pete Goldlust.
Hi there. My name is Pete Goldlust. I live in Ward 1. I serve on the city's Public Art Committee, and I work with Trans Alliance of Lane County. I also watched on the October 8th work session online, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. I want to thank the entire council for your clear, unanimous statement that the Flock cameras need to be turned off immediately, pending further discussion of data privacy issues. In particular, Councilmember Kaczynski, thank you for your assertiveness in moving to take immediate action. Councilmember Zelenka, thank you for your strong statements about the grave nature and urgency of the authoritarian threat we face today. Councilmembers Keating and Ye, thank you for your commitment to engaging deeply with these concerns that have been raised by community members. Councilmember Evans, thank you for sharing the story about the EPD of a not too distant past. You told a story in the work session about Eugene police in the 1980s and their practice of sitting up at the top of the atrium building and taking surveillance photos of any black men they spot walking around downtown Eugene, and maintained a logbook of these photos for future reference. It was a chilling and important story to share more broadly. It's worth all of us remembering, I think, how very intrusive and intimidating a police presence can be, even to law-abiding residents and visitors, even just using simple homespun, folksy surveillance technologies like a Polaroid camera and a 3-ring binder. It's an important reminder, I think, to all of us to be extremely conservative in how we allow ourselves to be surveilled. To City Manager Mederi, thank you also for respecting the will of Eugene residents and council in this matter. Like everyone else, I urge you to continue moving forward with the same urgency to end this terrible contract and welcome a deeper discussion of data privacy issues in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pete. Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Thank you. I now close the public comment period. Are there any comments from City Council members? Seeing none. Thank everyone for your time this evening, for joining us, and I now close the October 13th, 2025 City Council meeting, and we are adjourned.